Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live feed. Today is Friday. It is the 14th. It is the 14th of June, 2019. And today, doing something a little bit different. Not quite a cooking video, not a computer tech stuff video. Just sort of a general vlog, what's on my mind, what's going on. General topics, happy to answer any questions you have as well throughout. As you see here, it is a can of New Coke from 1985. Well, it is not from it was introduced in 1985, taken off the market. It's a promotion with the new Stranger Things season 3 starting up on Netflix. And do you think I would like that show? Don't really. But regardless, I remember when this came out and it was absolutely horrible. So I want to revisit this. What's it been? 85 to 95, 95 to 2005. 2005 to 2015. It's 30 years, 2015. It's about 34 years since I've tried one of these. And I remember I didn't like it, but tastes change. Maybe it's the best thing ever. Welcome in everybody. Let's make sure audio and video are in sync. If you just would let me know that in the chat, I would appreciate that. I hope that, that the audio and video is synchronized properly. Otherwise, I'll have to fix that before we move forward. And how are you guys today? Everybody doing well? Hello to Tony Wallow and Charles Hall, Jim G, Bob Wilson, John Paul Bacon, Alesh Tepej, Ray Sudbury, Speedy C, Jens Carlson, Robert Jones, John Craig, Steven Cicero, Matthew Johnstone, Jens Carlson, OG Gaming, Harry Baldwin, James Freeman, Stephen Bernstein, Vern Mahoney, Joseph Neal, Arto Rasenin, Piano Instrumentalist. Who else we got in here? Don Mack, Pete Unwin. Thank you guys for joining early into the feed. Florin Garua likes the shirt. Thank you. New shirt, first time. Breaking it in. Steven says everything looks good on his end. Robert Jones likes the shirt as well. Irving T joins us from France. Hi, Irving. Always good to see Irving in there. Hello to Eddie Brown and Muna Sam, who confirms audio and video is good. Paul 1961 says hello. Welcome, welcome. I'm thirsty. And I'm dying to try this. Now, this is a limited edition. Coke brought it back. I mistakenly said it would be in stores. It is not available in stores. You have to order it online. You get, it's $20, which is way too much money. But you get 2 cans of New Coke along with a bottle of, the small bottle of Coke that you see me drink, and Coke Zero or Diet Coke, I don't know, whatever that disgusting stuff is. So you get 4 things in the packaging box. Nothing like having that shipped in 110 degree weather. I'm sure it can only improve the flavor. I hope I don't regret this. Hope it doesn't like burn out my taste buds or anything. I think the secret here to marketing was they just said, you know, if we add a ton more sugar, people seem to like it better. Marketing geniuses they are. So as I recall, this was sweeter than Pepsi. And the reason I like Coke is it's a bit bitter and jaded, like me. All right, I'm not delaying any further. I'm not waiting for everybody else to get here. I'm trying this now. There it is. I have broken the seal. Or it looks like Coke. It's fuzzy like Coke, fizzy. Kind of smells like Coke. ASMR. Here it goes. Oh, that's awful. It's worse than I remember it. No! I need to get this far away from me. Whew. No. All right, maybe because of the ice. Maybe the ice watered it down because it tastes like diet. It doesn't taste sweet like I remember it. It tastes like it's got aspartame in it or some sugar replacement. So let's go straight out of the can. No. No, 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 no. No. You guys, here. You know what? It's all coming back to me now. I remember now. I remember what you do with this. Yeah. That's where it belongs. That is disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. Wow. I had no idea. I honestly thought I might like it. I mean, I must have been fooling myself, psyched myself up. I said, you know, maybe I'll like it. Nope, I remember. It's disgusting. All right, so anyway, I have to get the flavor out of my mouth now because it's yeah. So let's just go with quickly. What do I want? You know you're a nerd when your Coca-Cola bottle opener is a Coca-Cola bottle opener. Oh. Yeah, did I show that to you? It's my pride and joy. Come to Papa. Let's go. That's better. You know what I do for you guys, the sacrifices I make for you, for your entertainment. Are you not entertained? I wanted to show you one of my favorite kitchen gadgets. I think many of you may not be aware that these things exist. I know I didn't until I found one. And we're going to zoom in a little bit here on the countertop. We'll bring this down a little bit here. Let's see. Yeah, geez, my cameraman sucks. All right, so, well, I'm not doing a cooking show today. I will be doing some here very soon. And what I've got is a mandolin. And the mandolin is by far one of my favorite kitchen gadgets to exist. And what a mandolin enables you to do is to slice vegetables, primarily vegetables, or to cut them in ways like different thicknesses. You rotate the dial and the shelf raises and lowers so you get different thicknesses on there. And even to a point where these other blades will come up. Now you can shove a potato through there and it automatically cuts it two different ways at the same time for making French fries. Although they make them a little bit thin for my liking, so what I do is I will leave it to the thickest setting, which involves turning this, here we go. I will leave it at the thickest setting, run the potato through, and then the part that comes out, the sliced potato, I'll turn it sideways and run it through again, and that makes a thicker French fry for me without all the effort. And they're consistent in size versus, you know, taking a knife and cutting it. And I'm going to show you how cool this thing is because it makes light work out of kitchen prep. So first thing I want to do, I've got a cucumber here, just a good old cucumber. You know, there's English cucumbers and different style of cucumbers, a standard cucumber, vegetable peeler. I used to eat them with the skins, but you really have to wash them good these days because they really like to wax them up. Although I suppose you could probably get the organic ones and pay extra for it. But I just want to show you how amazing this thing is because If I had known they existed before I knew they existed, I would have gotten one much sooner. In fact, the first two I bought were cheap plastic ones, and the blades go bad on those pretty easily, and they're cheap. You know, they're like $30. So this was an OXO, and it was about $100, and it's all metal. It's very easy to clean. This blade here just lifts out, and you can wash that. And it just goes right back in here, like so. It's almost like, it's a terrible example, but it's almost like putting toilet paper back on a roll. There's a little nub that fits in there, and then it lines up, and you can adjust it. And this is about the only green thing you'll ever see me eat. Well, I suppose celery and cucumbers. That's it. That's the extent of my vegetables. Hey, they go good with Coke. What do you want? All right, so let me just get rid of this. All right. Wait a minute. Now check this out. This is the coolest thing. Let me get rid of that too. Hold on. Rinse it off. Okay. If you've never seen one of these before, so what I'm going to do, oh, I lost a foot. So everything comes apart real easily for cleaning. This foot just goes right back on, and the feet can fold up if you want to tuck it away. You can extend it out, and I'll put it over the plate, and we'll just do this sideways. It does come with a safety glove so that you don't run your hand across it, because that would not be ideal. But, you know, I'm very conscientious of myself and surroundings, and just don't need it. Famous last words, right? And what I'm able to do is I can just slide this across. Now, I'm just going to get rid of the end of it there, and I don't like that, so I'm going to get rid of it. Now, me, I like the cucumbers as thin as I can get them, so I will turn this dial until this is really narrow, and I can just run this like this. And you can see, perfect. Now you can imagine how much time this would take. First of all, if I could even get them that thin and cut it straight. But this shaves so much, shave, is that a good term? This shaves so much time off. Now as I get closer to my fingers, you'll see I slow down. That's it. I don't want the rest of that. We're all done. Light work. Here you go, Lyle. That's it. And as you can see, it's nothing. Super easy. I really got to fix that foot. Anyway, I wanted to show that for a while. Oh, also, this blade comes out here. And you can slide the blade out. You can flip it around for a rougher serrated edge. Generally, you use a serrated edge either with a knife or a blade on a harder food. So if you're cutting a tomato, you wouldn't want to use a serrated edge. A tomato's soft, you'd use a smooth edge. And that's true of knives as well. You use the knives with the serrated edges for foods that are hard. Anyway, one of my favorite things is that Mandoline, because the easier it is to prep something like this, the more likely I will be to eat it. There's nothing like saying, you know, I really should choose something healthy to snack on as I sit on the couch and watch TV. But I got to get up and I got to peel it and then I got to cut it up. And yeah, I don't know. You know, life is hard, right? So, you want a cucumber? You crazy dog? You want this? Lyle likes it too. You want another one? Can I keep my fingers? Anyway, one of my favorite gadgets, like I say, making French fries, you could do that multiple ways. Even onion rings. You run the onion across it and then You get that slice of onion and just start pushing the rings out, put it in batter, put it in the oil. Super, super easy, very quick, easy to clean, dishwasher safe. You can buy the cheap plastic ones for 25 bucks on Amazon. Those metal ones are about 100 bucks. I just wish I could find extra blades for it. That blade's getting a little dull. I use the heck out of that thing. Well, that's not true. I've had it a long time. So the reason I did not go live as scheduled the last couple days is a couple things happened. One, my garage door opener decided it wasn't going to open anymore. And of course, you don't learn that until you need to go somewhere. So I couldn't get the car out, and then I had to figure out, I know this garage door opens manually. I've never had to do it before. But I figured that out. That was no big deal, and it's pretty light. The garage door lifts up real easy. There's a big torsion spring across the top of the garage door, which takes all the weight off of it. No big deal. Now, I've never worked on a garage door opener, but I figured I'm going to see what's in there. Opened it up. There's really only a few components. You've got a motor. You've got a couple gears. You've got what they call a logic board, which also includes the transformer. It's all in one piece. That's generally the whole back of the unit. And of course, you've got your chain or your belt, which typically don't go bad. In motors, don't typically go bad. And I Googled the problem, and I couldn't find anybody describing the problem I was having, which is the switch on the wall was blinking rapidly. And I would push the button, and nothing would happen. It was as if it was unplugged. So, I tried turning it off and on again, right? You unplug it. Plug it back in, didn't fix it. I left it unplugged for a couple hours and plugged it back in. No difference. So I took out the cordless driver, the red Milwaukee driver you see me use, removed all the screws, pulled the housing apart, and looked in there and saw there's a run capacitor for the motor, which looked good, but it's a weird, kind of encased in plastic. I don't know how you can tell if it's good or not. And then there's the logic board, with what they call a logic board, which is two boards. As I mentioned, it's the whole back of the unit with the learn button and everything else. So I went on eBay, and I found a guy selling the logic board for the exact model number. You don't want to mix up model numbers. For $42. I thought, for $42, I'll try it. I also ordered the run capacitor and thought I'll just change it at the same time, and I ordered that off Amazon. Well, yesterday the part arrived, and I plugged it in and set it up, and garage door opener works again. Today, the run capacitor arrived, but I figure I'll just put it on a shelf and I'll have it when I need it. My original logic was, well, I've got it apart. I'll just change the logic board and run capacitor all at the same time. But I was so excited the garage door opener was working. I didn't want to risk breaking it, so I put it all back together. Didn't have any spare screws or anything. So apparently I know how to fix a garage door opener now. Necessity is the mother of invention. So that took some time. And then I had some clients call me wanting to do. One client had some issues I had to resolve remotely. Another client wanted Windows 10 installed on their desktop and their laptop, so I took care of that. That went on for about 7 hours yesterday because the laptop was old and slow, and I wasn't thinking straight, and we were sitting there watching Windows 10 install on the desktop, which is a desktop that I built. It's relatively quick, when I should have been working on the laptop, but the customer didn't remind me of that until we were done. He said, well, now that you got that one done, now we can do the laptop. And I just thought, I could have done them both at the same time. So life happens, and I wanted to make sure for that reason I was broadcasting today. Telling you, Mandoline, best kitchen gadget ever. It's not a gimmick, it's the real deal. Buy it from whoever you want to buy it from. These need salt. I have to make sure I keep my blood pressure up. Otherwise, how are those blood pressure medications ever going to sell? Anyway, don't mind me while I eat in front of you. These are really good. Nature did a good job on these. Looks like I missed a couple contributions. MC Splash 100 has contributed $2. Tony Wallows contributed 99 cents. Thank you, Tony. Wow, that new Coke was nasty. That was nasty. If I want to drink something that disgusting, I'll just go get a Coke Zero or Diet Coke. Whew, just thinking about it. Where's the first aid kit? It's me. Like I said, the Mandoline does come with a glove and you should use it. But you know, I'm an adult, so. And not an adult like how they define them today, but an adult is how they defined it when I was growing up. So make of that what you will. Now, I have a video to share with you. This is a little taste of what's coming up. I was in California recently. I was in Hollywood and I visited with Brian Cometa. Brian owns $300 data recovery. And I'm sick and tired of all the false information from the know-it-alls on YouTube and just across the internet who have no actual real life experience on the subjects of which they discuss in detail as though they were experts in the matter, and they are not. When it comes to data recovery, I am not an expert. I'm a computer repair technician. I can resolve your Windows problems. I can resolve any computer issues where the computer does not boot up or work properly. I'm your guy. But that's knowing my limits. No one person can know everything. It scares me when I meet these people that are like, yeah, I work on Linux, I work on Mac, I work on Windows. Then you're not any good. There's no way you are equally good in all three things. There's something you're better at and you know it. Now, that doesn't mean you might be good enough, but that's not good enough for me. So when it comes to data recovery, I don't want you to listen to what anybody has to say unless they're a data recovery expert, meaning they are working for a living in data recovery and have done so for many, many years. So that includes forensic data recovery, like what Scott Moulton does, and we'll have Scott on the show. He's from myharddrivedied.com. And of course, Brian Cometa. These are two gentlemen that are not shy about sharing their information, which in data recovery, it's almost considered blasphemous to, I don't know, it's an unspoken rule that you don't talk about how it works. Because when people find out, they might get really upset, like, you know, talking about how a hot dog is made. But Brian's very open about it. And I want to give you a little taste of that interview. My sister's been working on the editing, and I think we're going to, rather than run it as one long interview, I think we're going to run it as a series of quick tips, starting with this whole thing about solid-state drive recovery. Now, I've already told you, and I've already got a quick tip, that solid-state drives often can be recovered. And hard drives often can't be. Now, that's not to say that solid-state drives are more recoverable. They're not, but it is often very possible. When a hard drive arrives in Brian's shop with platter damage, there's no data recovery possible from anybody ever in the world. If the platter is shattered, there's no putting it back together. You know, it's done. The data is gone forever. That's why no data recovery company can guarantee 100% data recovery, because when they open that lid and see that your glass platter has got all of the coating wiped off of it, there's nothing there to recover. And there's a big misconception that hard drives only fail one way, but hard drives fail lots of different ways. And depending on how the hard drive fails determines how recoverable it is. Likewise, depending on how an SSD fails determines how recoverable it is. Now, how do I know this? I'm not an expert. Well, this is what Brian said, and Brian is the expert, and I want you to hear it directly from Brian. Now, this video will be cut and left as its own quick tip video in the near future, and will be on the Quick Tips channel. But here's a little sneak peek for those of you joining me today. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Brian Cometa, and I'm the owner and lead technician at $300 Data Recovery. Today, we'll be going over some of the data recovery myths and misconceptions that are being spread on the internet. A lot of people believe data recovery on SSDs is actually impossible, and that's not true. We have several tools for SSD data recovery. Its solid-state drives die just like hard drives die. They don't have spinning platters and moving parts inside, but there's still things that can go wrong. For example, on a SSD, there's a controller that tells the drive how to operate. And if this controller chip becomes corrupt, the whole drive will basically appear dead. You could plug it into your computer and it won't do anything. There'll be no computer noise and it won't show up in your BIOS. There's other SSD failures which are also related to controller corruption, where the drive may appear, but it will have an incorrect size. For example, if you have a 128 gigabyte SSD, it may show that it's only 8 megabytes in size. That's another kind of SSD failure that's related to controller corruption. And data recovery is often still possible in these kind of situations. It depends on what exact drive it is and what model controller that drive has. Typically, what makes an SSD unrecoverable is a lack of support from our data recovery tools. And usually that lack of support is due to some kind of encryption on that SSD where we don't have the key in order to basically decrypt it. So in layman's terms, the drive is encrypted and there's no way to decrypt it in order to access the files. So that's a major problem, but every year more and more drives are supported by our tools, and typically the most popular models are going to be more likely to be recovered. As soon as you realize that you have a hard drive or SSD or flash drive with a problem, the best thing to do is power it off immediately. Keep in mind that if you don't power off your drive, the firmware of the drive is always on and running and performing maintenance in the background. So if there's damage to the drive, even keeping it powered on at all can increase damage. Now, if you have a format or a deleted files recovery, you're also going to want to keep the drive powered off. But it's even more important in this case, since just leaving the drive connected to your computer can cause it to overwrite the previously formatted or deleted data. And really the time you wait between powering your bad drive off and sending it to a data recovery company, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're not dropping the drive, if you keep it in a safe place, it doesn't move, it's cool, it's not getting moisture, there's basically nothing that could just happen to the drive when it's powered off to make it worse. I think people don't want to hear this, but really the best thing you can do if your drive has gone bad and you need data recovery is to just keep it powered off and send it to a data recovery company.
And there you have it. So my thanks to Brian over at $300 Data Recovery. I'll have a link to his company down below in the videos. I think they're the highest rated data recovery company on Yelp anywhere in the world. People are just delighted and overwhelmed with how good the communication is, how fast he is, and how he does everything he says he's going to do. What more could you ask? He on the website, it's very clear what your price is going to be. We get into a little bit more of that in the interview, and as you can see, I let him do the talking. So I tried to be as invisible as possible so that he can convey the information in the same way that he would convey it if you were there talking directly to him. And again, I really can't thank him enough for making the time. I mean, I took his whole Thursday up, but luckily they were having a day where that was possible. And while we were there was actually a customer that saw us filming and said, "Hey, I recognize you and him. I got your, did my research and saw your videos, and that's why I brought my stuff here, and you're amazing." And I was like, Brian was like, "Thank you very much." And then the guy walked away, and I looked at Brian, I went, camera wasn't on. We didn't get any of that. But it's cool. It's got to feel good to help people make money from it and have people show their gratitude and appreciation. And that's why I do what I do. But you will see a series of videos. I'm not quite sure the order in which we will release them, but we're going to address very common questions that I see here with regards to data recovery. And one thing I'll tell you right now is if you need any data recovery, whether it's a file you've accidentally deleted or a partition or the drive is making weird sounds, the first thing you want to do is turn the computer off and leave it off. Now, if you know how to remove the drive, go ahead and remove it. If you don't, you'll need to take it to somebody. Now, once the drive is powered off, you don't have to do it right away. I had a RAID array fail on me, and I've had it sitting in a closet for 3 years. I think it's been 3 years, and took it over there, and Brian recovered the data for me while we were doing the interview. He just had to click the mouse a few times. He made it look like nothing. But when you have $250,000 or more worth of data recovery equipment, it does make the process a lot easier, faster, more reliable, more accurate than some free piece of software you're downloading off the internet. And while that may be all you need, it depends on the type of failure. So if the data is important and you don't want to mess about, it is critical that you power it off immediately. It's not enough to say, well, it's just in Windows and I'm not using it. No. The drive runs through maintenance routines when it's powered on. Doesn't matter if you're using it. The fact that it has power reduces the odds of your data recovery every second that drive remains on. And if it's a failing drive, it could mean the difference between an easy recovery and a complex, time-consuming recovery. So if the data is important, doesn't matter if it's a hard drive, a solid-state drive, a hybrid drive, you shut it off, disconnect power immediately, and then when you have time, get it to a data recovery service. And I don't know anybody cheaper or better for data recovery than Brian Cometa. If you're looking for forensic data recovery in lawsuits and things like that, I don't know anybody better than Scott Moulton, but he's not cheap. So with that, I'm looking forward to releasing that video here very soon, as I mentioned, as a quick tips video, and there will be a series of those. I think we've got about 6 to 10 of those to release, and I hope you never need data recovery. But if you do, I will challenge you to find a service faster, cheaper, and better than $300 data recovery. Because I've been in the business a long time, and I don't even have anybody close as far as price, the speed at which the work gets done, the accuracy, the communication between $300 data recovery and the customer. Like they tell you when they receive the drive, they'll send you a listing of all the data they can get back. If they cannot get back 99% of your data as a minimum, then they offer you the opportunity to, go forward with the recovery of what they can get back. Like, let's say they can get back 87%, let's just say. They can email you a list of the file listing and say, this is what we see. Do you want this? And if so, we'll just keep moving forward with the price not changing. If you're like, nope, if you can't give me back 99%, then just cancel the job. They charge you a $100 labor fee. That's it, and you're out. So that's very reasonable. Time has value, and sometimes even to get to that point could be a lot more than an hour invested. And when you've got the overhead of employees and rent and everything else, like I said, the equipment, which has to be constantly updated for the latest recovery techniques and latest drive decryptions, it's a constant investment on Brian's end. So anyway, can't say enough good about the guy. He's not a sponsor. He's not paying me anything. It's just a mutually respected peer in the industry. And I think he deserves more attention. He doesn't have a multi-million-dollar marketing budget to flood you with pop-ups and marketing campaigns like other companies that we all know of that do that. That is really all I had planned for today. Like I said, it was going to be a light day today. I was able to get Marty's computer shipped back out to him, so that's on its way to Florida. And I've got to finish up the X299. It needs cable management, and I'm just going to do that when I have time. I have no new builds coming up. I have some reviews to do. I have the Scythe coolers to review. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go forward with that. I heard back from John Zenos regarding the Zenos case. He has developed a special piece that will add on to the case. so that we can put a liquid cooler on there like an X62 from NZXT to cool that i9 9700K. So that will happen, but he's still developing it. He just emailed me today with an update, and I expect to hear from him soon with the results. Mr. Holzman, would you know of any hard drive software that's free that fixes the sectors? Sectors cannot be repaired. So when a hard drive gets a bad sector, what it does is it will grab a spare sector that sits in an overhead. Think of it as a extra inventory that sits invisible to you. And it will swap it. It'll mark the bad sector as bad, not to use it, and it'll grab one of the spare ones and activate it and say that's the new sector that replaces it. Generally speaking, once a hard drive starts to have bad sectors, it will fail sooner rather than later. It's not something that goes away. It's not something that is repairable. My suggestion to you is replace the drive as soon as possible. Hard drives are very inexpensive. And if you want to buy a used hard drive, I mean, I think it's foolish, but you can go on places like Craigslist and OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace and find people in your neighborhood selling them. I would not order a used hard drive through the mail because there's a great chance for damage in that. And brand new hard drives are so inexpensive. It's a good excuse to upgrade to a solid state drive, unless you need large amounts of storage, slow storage. But bad sectors are never repairable. What they do is they detour around them. But whatever caused that sector to go bad, you're not fixing. And depending on what caused it to go bad, will determine how much life is left in the drive. But generally speaking, the clock is ticking. So this is why we make backups. In this case, you're getting a warning. Most people don't get a warning. I would say back up your data, but I'm not going to because you should already have a backup anyway. Getting a lot of attention on my shirt today. That's nice. Thanks, you guys. Any thoughts on VLC and the codec audio issues? Yes, it seems VLC is still struggling. They just released another version. They went from 3.0.6 to 3.0.7 and just released 3.0.7.1. With regards to this latest release, or these last couple, I think since 3.06, audio has been getting out of sync. There's an option in there to turn on that used to be turned on by default to do it automatically. I find when I play things through VLC on my Amazon Fire, I have to go to the audio delay and set it to negative 350 milliseconds to get the lips in sync. Never had to do that before. I'm just waiting. I'm assuming there's a fix coming that enough people are complaining. I don't think I have to complain. I think others are complaining. I don't have any fix at this time. Can those guys recover a bleach-washed drive? If you're referring to bit bleach or bleach bit, no. Brian Cometa cannot do that. In fact, if you format the drive, he cannot recover it. Now, Scott Moulton, on the other hand, might be able to. Scott does forensic data recovery. That's more in line. It's a completely different type of recovery, and it requires a completely different set of tools, as well as a completely different set of experience to learn how to recover data. And I will allow Scott to explain all of that in much more detail when I bring him on in the future. But no, Brian Cometa, if you accidentally delete a file, he can get it back. If you actually delete a partition, he can get it back. If your drive stops working, he may be able to get it back. 80% chance. I think Brian said 8 out of 10 drives he's able to recover. In the 2 out of 10 that he cannot, you could then, he'll send it back to you and you can choose one of those $2,000 data recoveries that might be able to get it back. But what Brian does doesn't reduce the odds of getting the data back. He doesn't cause any irreversible harm to the drive in his attempts. And in most cases, far more than not, most data recovery is pretty straightforward that way. He's had to do some head swaps on drives. He's got a bunch of donor drives. He's got more donor drives than I've ever seen. In fact, I brought him a bunch of spare hard drives that I had just to get him out of my house. And he's like, I thought he'd be happy, and he's like, oh, we're getting so many donor drives now, it's crazy. But I guess that's a good thing. Ronnie wants to know if MSI parts are still not advisable. I want you to know that because I don't use certain manufacturers is because I'm in business where customers are buying machines from me. They're not buying machines from MSI or Asus or Gigabyte. They're buying a machine from Carey. And I have to use manufacturers that will stand behind me if I have a problem. They're going to back me up, because if they don't back me up, then I have to pay out of pocket to do whatever needs to be done to go right by the customer. So I need support from the companies that I choose to install in the computers that I build so that my customers have a very good experience. When when the manufacturers fail to provide me the support that I need in a timely manner or in a painless manner, I don't use them. Now, that doesn't mean their products are bad. It means their support is bad. Now, if you're just building one MSI computer, you'd probably be fine. When you're building 1,000 MSI computers and you start having problems, if you start having problems, and if the support fails to respond to you in a timely manner, or if they spend time saying that it's your fault and finding excuses on why they shouldn't or won't honor their warranty and RMA processes, then you as a business owner have to decide if you just tell the customer tough luck, I can't get it warranted. The amount to replace the motherboard is more than the profit I made on the system, plus I have to do the labor for free. Because I am the way I am, I will buy the new board out of my pocket. I will do the labor out of my pocket so I can get the machine back to the customer as soon as possible, and I will solemnly swear to never buy from that manufacturer ever again. And if that happens to a dozen customers in a short span of time, that becomes thousands and thousands of lost dollars, lost revenue for me. And because I'm a small company, that's all it takes to put me out of business. So the reason you see me use certain brands is because I have faith and experience that their support is there. And the reason you don't see me use other brands is because either they're a new brand that didn't exist and I'm happy with the brands I've got, so I have no reason to try a new brand, or that brand has burned me in the past, costing my company money and making me embarrassed and look like a fool to a customer who may never ever be a customer again. And there'll be nothing I can do to repair that. So again, when you build for yourself, you have a different set of requirements. You're much easier than when you're building computers for others and when you're building them at scale. When you're doing dozens, hundreds, thousands, the likelihood for a failure increases. Your likelihood to interact with support increases. And if that interaction with support is lacking, then the interaction of support from your customer to you is also lacking, because the customer only sees you. And if you are not performing, if you are not providing them an immediate solution, they're saying, hey, I paid you this money for this. They don't know how much profit you made. They don't care. That's not their problem. You sold the computer. Presumably you made a profit. Now it's not working. Get over here and fix it. Fix it now. Now, the fact that they had a problem is not good for business. If you have to pay to fix it, that's not good for business. And if the customer never comes back again as a result of that experience, regardless, that's not good for business. So you choose whatever parts you want to choose. I suggest you read reviews. There needs to be negative reviews. If there's no negative reviews, I'd be very suspicious. I always go to the negative reviews first and determine who the crazy people are, who the unreasonable people are. And I make my decision from there as to how I want to roll the dice and spend my hard-earned money. But you really need to comprehend the difference between building one computer for you and building hundreds or thousands for other people that your livelihood depends on. And the support from the manufacturers and those companies can make the literal difference between the life of your company and the death of your company. Now, that being said, I built one system with MSI recently, and it's a good motherboard. I liked it. BIOS was a little different. I didn't care for it, but maybe I didn't care for it because it was different. It was unfamiliar to me. It was also one of the most expensive boards I put into a home user's computer, and I sold it to a customer who's very happy with it, and we've never had a problem. If I have to contact MSI support, I hope their support is better than I remember it, and I hope they take care of me. However, this is what I do. I just dip my toe in the water. We start with one board and we wait. In the meantime, especially with this recent experience with this Asus board and the way its BIOS was set up with Madi's computer, I'll be leaning more and more on Gigabyte. I think you're going to find me more and more leaning on Gigabyte. But that being said, my reasons are not your reasons. Gary says, Carey, you should be a teacher. I was a teacher, but yeah, thank you. I don't know why people think I wasn't. These are too good. Every time I put something in my mouth, you just show up. He almost got me. Nice. You shark. Better. Questions? I'm almost done, Lyle. They're almost gone. All right, you can have the last one. You need it worse than I do. Good boy. I'm done with you now. Go away. All right, so any questions? I'd be happy to answer. That's the healthiest thing you guys are ever going to see me eat. Chester Hughes has contributed $2. Let me see, I missed a few contributions. Thank you, Chester, for your contribution and support of the channel. Stephen Anderson contributed $20. Stephen, thank you so much. Stephen, if you want a case badge, anytime people contribute $20 or more, happy to send you one of my Carey Holzman case badges. You can see a picture of them over at car-ey-lyst.com. You'll see it's an engraved aluminum plate that you can stick on the front of your computer. If you'd like one, send me an email. The email address is at tech-vets.com. You'll see on the right side, it'll say contact us. Click on my name. Say, hey, I'm this guy in the chat and I'd like a case badge and here's my mailing address and I'll make sure to get one out to you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And everybody else too as well. And of course it's a lot straighter process to just go to car-ey-lyst.com and you can purchase a case badge directly from there. And the proceeds all go to support the channel. Donnie Seeger contributed $2. He says, what's up? Glad you got things fixed. Good to see you. Thank you, Donnie. Good to see you as well. Alan Maybrier contributed $5. He says, happy Friday to Carey and our wonderful community. We have the best community here. McSplash100 contributed $2. And thank you guys again so much. It's not a community without you. And then it would be a comedy. Yeah. Community without you is comedy. I'll have to work on that. And let's see here. What is a reallocated sector count? I'm just Googling that so I can read it to you. When the drive finds a read or write or verification area on your hard drive or error, it marks that sector as reallocated and transfers data to a special reserved area. Remember I was talking about the spare sectors? Reallocated means you had a bad sector, it was marked as bad and is no longer being used, and it's grabbed one of the spare ones. You only have so many spare ones. Whatever causes that reallocated sector to occur, some drives for it, look, there's no such thing as a perfect drive. A perfect drive does not exist. Every hard drive platter has bad sectors. And when drives are manufactured, part of the manufacturing process is the firmware that goes on the drive. This is often why you can't, sometimes you can, but often you cannot simply take a circuit board off of one drive and put it on another. Because what it does in the process is it marks the bad sectors in manufacturing and hides them from you so you'll never see them. It's all done in the firmware level. So even if you run software on it, it won't even recognize that there's any bad sectors at all. That's all in the firmware. Now, when sectors go bad beyond that, that's what you're seeing when you look at your reallocated sector count or bad sectors. This is why we make backups. It's really not a big deal, honestly. Bad sectors are going to happen. They will happen to everybody sooner or later. As long as you have a backup, an up-to-date backup of your important data, it's not a big deal. The drive will need to be replaced. You can wait until it dies, or you can replace it ahead of time. Subaru Mike likes to drive cars on tires that should be replaced. It's not only dangerous, but it has left him. I remember he took a road trip to Texas, and I said, are you going to change these tires before you go to Texas? Because they're pretty rough. He says, no, they'll be fine. I got a spare tire. So there's Subaru Mike in his, at this time he was driving a truck, not a Subaru, because he needed to tow, right? So he's towing, and Subarus don't have the capacity really to tow, not much. So anyway, he's going to Texas, gets a flat tire. It's 115 degrees in the desert. He's on the side of the road where cars are whizzing by at 80 miles an hour, changing a tire. No big deal for Subaru Mike. He likes the heat. I think he's part lizard. Puts the spare tire on the car, gets back on the road. Shortly thereafter, another tire blows. Now he's got no spare. So thankfully, a friendly motorist assisted him. So got him to a shop, he get another tire, put it back on. I don't know how long this road trip took, but it took a lot longer. Me, I'm the kind of guy that if I see the tires starting to go, I want to replace them before it happens. I don't want to be in the middle of something and be interrupted. Like I'm trying to get to an appointment and I'm in a hurry. Murphy's Law says that's when that tire is going to go. I don't want to be on the side of a road, dangerously close to cars who may not be paying attention and texting on their phone and get killed because I was too cheap to buy a tire. So when my tires are 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, even if they got good tread on them, they go. In the desert here in Phoenix, tires start to crack, the rubber gets dry, and they just become brittle, even though they might look great to the eye. I was quite shocked when I took the 6-year-old tires in at just how bad they were. In fact, there were parts of the metal of the tire sticking out that I didn't even notice at the seam between the tread and the sidewall. And once it was pointed out to me, I was wondering how long I had been driving on those tires. I didn't realize just how foolish that was, especially on a front-wheel drive car. If you lose one of your tires, you can lose control of the car. Now with a Subaru, that's all-wheel drive. You're going to probably be just fine. But on a standard like Honda Civic or something like that, that can be a profoundly dangerous situation, all for the price of a tire. Even if you go buy a used tire, it'll be better shape than running on old tires. And much the same way, I won't run on old hard drives. When hard drives reach about 3 years old, I replace them. I don't let them run until they fail. There's one exception. My NAS, I have two 12 terabyte drives in there. They're probably 2 years old at this point, and they're too expensive to replace. It's in a RAID 1 configuration, so when one drive fails, I'll still have the other drive as an exact mirror, and I can get the drive replaced. If it's under warranty, it won't cost me anything. And as long as the single drive doesn't fail on me during the time of waiting for the replacement so the RAID can rebuild again, then I'll be fine. If the second drive fails, similar to the first one, before I have a chance to get the drive replaced, the data's gone. I don't have the data on the NAS. The majority of it is not backed up because it's just stuff that's there for my entertainment. It's not worth it. It costs too much money to back up. So All my YouTube videos, for example, are backed up on YouTube. And while I may not be able to get the highest quality back from YouTube at this time, there's been very rare occasions where I've ever needed to reuse any videos. So I need to learn to just not hoard so much stuff. Data hoarding is bad. It's bad. It gets expensive. The more data you want to keep, the more expensive it is. Just like with stuff. The more stuff you have, the more expensive it is to store it, find a place to put it. That's why people pay for storage facilities, and they'll lock stuff up for 40, 50 bucks a month, month after month after month, paying, you know, hundreds if not thousands of dollars annually for stuff they don't use, they don't see, and they've more or less forgotten about. Sell the stuff. Oh, it's a good couch. I want to, you know what? Sell that couch. Give it away. And when it's time for you to need a new couch, go buy a brand new one that won't be all musty and dusty from the storage unit. Anyway, that's my philosophy on that. So don't worry about hard drive reliability. Don't worry about bad sectors. All of it is irrelevant. As long as you have a current backup, it is nothing more than a minor inconvenience. You replace the drive, you restore the data, you're back up and running. And because the drive you replace it with is brand new, statistically, you'll be good for a couple years after that. Irving T's contributed €5. He says, hey, Carey, great streaming as always. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Irving. You too. John Wilson's contributed $20. He says, just a little something for the weekend, cookies and Cokes. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Jesse Kirk says hello. Dusant Packler, hello. Rick Dusk, hello. I'm just looking through the comments right now. I'm going to ask my moderators, do not delete any comments, please. Allow me to do that. If you feel a comment is not appropriate, please bring it to my attention. If you insist on removing comments, then I will remove your moderator status. If I have turned you blue, it means I trust you. Please do not betray my trust and do as I ask. It is just to be respectful and courteous. We are a supportive community here, and allow me to decide, unless something is vulgar. If something is intentionally vulgar, you may remove that comment. Otherwise, sometimes people have a different sense of humor. Sometimes things are misinterpreted. Please allow me to make that judgment. And if you're concerned, feel free to bring it to my attention. I generally don't see every comment, far from it. So it's quite possible comments are flying by I don't see. But that's okay. If one person is continually posting things that are questionable, I will eventually see it. But again, you're certainly more than welcome to bring it to my attention. Oh, I see Mitchell Morrison joins us. Hello, Mitchell. We got to get Mitchell back over here and get him back to work. I'm supposed to get floors installed in here, I think next week. I don't know. I don't have a date yet. When the floors are going to get installed, I will not be able to film for probably that whole week, I'm guessing. Between the old floor having to come out, that's probably going to take a day or two. And then for the new floor to go in will take a day or two. So I'm guessing 4 days, if it happens quickly, that I will not be able to release anything live, but it is my goal to crack the whip to have my sister do some quick tips. That'll be a great time to release those $300 data recovery videos, as well as some other stuff I'm working on behind the scenes. What solid state drives do you recommend? The drives you see me use in my videos are the drives I recommend. Alan Carton says, greetings from Denmark. Gorguy says, I missed the Coke tasting. Did it age well like fine wine? It's not old. It's not from 1985. It's the formula from 1985. It's been remanufactured and released. You can just rewind this video like you would any other video, even while it's live. It's called DVR mode. And you don't have to say you missed anything. Just grab that mouse and drag it back, and you can see what you missed right now. What kind of floors? I'm having vinyl plank flooring installed. It's a little scary because I got the first bill and no work has been done and no appointment has been set, but that bill arrived. What are you going to do? Got to pay for the parts. Are you still having fire problem issues in Arizona? All the fires in Arizona happen outside of the city, so they don't impact me. There's nothing, you can't set the cement on fire. I live in a concrete jungle, so there's no fires in Arizona that will affect me. I'm too far from the ocean to worry about floods, hurricanes. We don't have issues with tornadoes. We have, they're very rare. We do get high wind advisories, but not tornado level type stuff. So generally speaking, acts of nature here result in damage from high winds, but not tornado winds, or damage from extreme flooding, although I'm not in a floodplain. When it does rain, it can create havoc with regards to flooding the streets, flooding people's yards, but my house is not located where that impacts me. So you guys need to worry about me. There's a lot of fires burning around Arizona. They're very far away from where I am. But I appreciate your concern, but it'll never be an issue. Michael Walpole's contributed $2.99. Thank you for supporting the channel. Sam Kowalski says, I just bought a Cronus to do a clone of my mechanical hard drive to a solid state drive. Yep. You're on the right path. If I see false information posted in the chat room, I will remove it. I always want you guys to consider the source of the information. All too often, people are making statements that they believe are true, and then they spread those falsities to you guys. It's basically poisoning your mind, as far as I'm concerned, and it confuses people who don't know the difference. So unless you're an expert in the field talking about very technical things, you will need to point a reference to what you're saying to an official site that verifies that, or don't say anything at all. It is very frustrating to me, the amount of false information spread around the internet. It's getting worse. It will continue to get worse, but I'm not permitting it here in this community, just so you're warned. If you're going to insist on it, I will boot you out. Now, I do hope everybody understands that it is a supportive community, and I do make mistakes and I do get things wrong, and I don't want you to worry about correcting me. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to make bold technical statements that are factually wrong, disguised as fact, because you believe it. You might believe the earth is flat, and you're welcome to, but we're not disseminating that information here. You can keep those beliefs to yourself. Or better yet, start your own YouTube channel, and then you can do whatever you want. Would it be better to use a solid state drive versus a hard drive on a server for a small business? Honestly, there's no answer I can give you without understanding the needs of the business. So It's an impossible answer to give you. I would have to meet with the business owner, see what their needs are over the network, and there may be another alternative besides those two options that they would be better suited to, for example. So I just don't know. Some scenarios are appropriate for some hardware where other scenarios are not. It varies from customer to customer, budget, performance, the use of the server, how it's going to be used, the demands that are placed on it, how many users will be accessing it at the same time, what the bandwidth of the network is. There's a lot to factor in there. John Feinor says, I only express opinions based on anecdotal experience. I got no problem with that. I have no problem with you sharing an experience you have. What I have a problem with is you sharing somebody else's experience as though it were fact and you personally have verified it. That is often very obvious when people do that. And it's, to me, very offensive. And while intentions might be in the right place, warming somebody up with a flame and then accidentally setting their house on fire is effectively what you're doing. So I'm going to ask you to just be cognizant of that. And if you refuse or cannot, I'll have to do what I have to do. Richard Barrow says, what is the best sound card you can use with Dolby Surround 7.1? Well, once again, you're asking me what the best item on a menu is at a restaurant. What I like and what you like are probably two very different things. I doubt the restaurant offers a bunch of stuff that's horrible and one good item, and that everybody at the restaurant is all eating that one item. Otherwise, those other items wouldn't be offered on the menu, would they? Those other items may not be appealing to you, they may not be right for you, but it doesn't mean they're wrong for everyone. And as such, when it comes to what you hear, only you know what you hear. Your range of hearing and your sensitivity to it is unique to who you are as a person. And you are just going to have to listen to some sound cards to find one you like. Nobody will be able to tell you. They can guess, and maybe they'll guess right. I don't guess. I don't guess with other people's money. It's real easy to open somebody else's wallet. I don't do that here. I encourage you to listen to sound cards. Maybe you can buy some that have a return policy that you can plug them in and try. If you don't like it, send it back. You are going down a road of disappointment because the minute you listen to somebody tell you what you're going to like, chances are you're not going to like it. And there's no recourse for you. It's not like you paid somebody to do it. Now, when you pay somebody to do something and what they do doesn't live up to what you were promised, you have recourse. When you're on the internet asking for free advice, you get exactly what you deserve. Well, you get exactly what you paid for. Would probably be a more accurate statement. I can't warn you enough about it. Everybody hears differently, everybody tastes differently, everybody sees differently. These are decisions you have to make. You're the one who has to live with them, you're the one who has to pay for it. Anybody you ask doesn't bear any of that responsibility, nor is there any negative consequence to any information they provide you. Remember that. Doug says, Carey, I have another SSD if you need it. So right now, as we sit, there are 2 machines left to give away for disabled American veterans. There have been plenty of contributions since the last time to cover any shipping for those 2 machines, plus a little bit more on top of that. There's probably 15 solid-state drives, I'm guessing, to be used in future giveaways. And there's some RAM and power supply and stuff like that that we can use as well. At this point right now, I have no other off-lease machines coming in, so I'm not planning any other giveaways at this time, so please do not contribute to that cause. If you want to contribute to support the channel, please do. If you're saying here's money to support the Computers for Disabled American Veterans, I want you to know that at this time right now, Once these last 2 machines are gone, it's going to be, I'm taking a break for a little while. I don't want my channel to be the giveaway channel. It's not, I don't want to create I don't want to change the purpose of the channel. That's just a little something I do from time to time. And I don't want people to get upset that, hey, I gave you this money for a giveaway and now it's been a month and you haven't given anything away. What are you doing with the money? I absolutely don't want you to give on those conditions. And I don't want to have to separate the money out and maintain it that way. I want to do whatever the channel needs. And as like what happened before is money came in more than the channel needed, and I decided to take that money and buy a bulk of off-lease computers. And I intend to do that again, but I need a little break for a while because it is a hassle. It is a real hassle. Each computer has to be shipped individually. It has to be packed separately. They have to be configured individually. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And it's worth it. But there's other things I want to do too. So I'm trying to find a balance and maintain doing computer builds, computer upgrades, showing you guys repairs, reviews, and then the giveaways. So everything gets a little salt and pepper of everything. And yeah, so there's 2 more giveaways, maybe 3. There's somebody who wants to give me a computer to give away. We'll see if they follow through with that and when. And then I've got to talk with Brian over at Second Chance IT because I want them to make me a better deal. I think Second Chance IT did really well in this. I think you guys, you slammed them with orders. And I think Second Chance IT can be a little more generous, I hope, and be more of a sponsor in this so that it doesn't impact me financially as much as it has, so that we can help even more people. It's not about having money for me, it's about being able to give away more, to help more people. So right now, please do not contribute for that cause until we bring that back up again. We're more than covered where we're at. And like if you want to send a solid state drive, I'll put it in the stack with the rest, but they may not be used for quite some time. I want to warn you right now, it could be a few months. And thank you guys, because it wouldn't have been possible to do this without the community, without you guys stepping up like you have. So I don't want to be unappreciative, but at the same time, I don't want to be overwhelmed with it. So again, thank you for everything you guys have done. It's been incredible. And I do intend to help more on a bigger scale. Just trying to crack that nut where I don't have to work so hard. For example, I'd like to be able to have Second Chance IT ship the computers directly. They ship them cheaper than I can. They're in business to do it, and they do it every day. For me, I've got to take time out of my day, drive down to FedEx, explain how I need it shipped. Everything is weighed individually. Box size has to be measured, and it's an hour out of my day that I could be earning some money. And it's costing me 5 times more than what Second Chance IT would pay. But I need them to have the machines pre-configured the way I would set them up without me having to do it. And these are all conversations I have to have. And if Second Chance IT doesn't want to do it, then I'll need to find somebody who does. Because we're going to help these people. And we're going to help as many as we can. That much I know. Mike Paradin says, hey, Carey, I made it from Montreal. Welcome in, Mike. David Ice says, I upgraded my memory after putting a solid state drive in, and wow, what a really fast machine I have. With a crucial 240 gig SSD and 32 gigs of RAM. What a difference it makes. Most people don't need more than 16 gigs of RAM, but if you're doing video or photo editing, it can make a significant improvement. There's haven't talked about some music in a while. There's a new band. There's a guy. This guy is or was the bass player for a group called Panic at the Disco, which I've never been a fan of. I like that Panic at the Disco sort of has an 80s feel. Their lead singer, Brendan. I want to like him. I just don't really care for any of their music. I want to, but I just don't. And so this guy started his own band called the Brobecks, which they were together a long time. And then he decided he was going to just record some music at his house, not in a professional, he's not going to go to the studio owned by the big record companies. He's going to do this at home. And he brought his drummer over from the Brobecks, and just these two guys just doing what they wanted to do. And the band is called, it's a long word. The band is called I Don't Know How, But They Found Me. That's the name of the band. IDK How, if you just type in IDK or IDK How on YouTube. And they've released an album called 1981 Extended Release, which is funny to me because you could buy an extended release of many singles in the 80s. And their music has a very cool 80s sound, and it's like everything they do is great. They've got a song called Absinthe. They've got a song called Choke. They have a song called Do It All the Time. They're all, just listen to them on a loop. Just listen to them over and over. Then I found this singer. Her name is Whitney. Oh, come on, Carey. What's her name? Whitney. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Phillips. Whitney Phillips. And she's got two songs I can't get enough of where she's with other musicians and she's featured as the singer. One's called Out of Love and the other is called Lights. And they're very electronic dance music kind of thing. It's can't get enough of that. And I'm trying to think what the other one is. There was another new artist, or fairly new artist to me anyway. Bob Moses. And he's got a song called, I think it's Never Back Down. Anyway, very good. They all have Bob Moses and I Don't Know How, But They Found Me have just revitalized this 80s sound, which I can't get enough of. And if that sounds appealing to you, check them out. Their videos are here on YouTube. Ivan Romero's contributed 600 ARS. Is that Argentinian? He says, don't panic. It's just about $15 US. Carey, you're like that fun and genius uncle I never had. Thanks for existing. Greetings from Argentina. Well, thank you, Ivan. I will take that as a compliment all day long, as long as I'm not the creepy uncle. I want to see what ARS stands for. I know I looked this up in the past. I can't remember. Argentinian peso. That's $13.65 US. And again, I appreciate any and all contributions to the channel, big or small. It adds up. With 250 plus thousand subscribers, wouldn't it be great if everybody gave me $1? Can you imagine? That'd be like 4 years worth of salary for me. But anyway, they don't. And so that's why when somebody contributes like that, and sometimes I've had people apologize, like, oh, I'm sorry, it's a small contribution. No, please. I really appreciate that very much. Richard Bogan says, Walk the Moon has a very 80s sound as well. Yeah, don't really care for Walk the Moon. There are some bands that just get overplayed on the radio, and I think Walk the Moon was one of those. I can't even remember the name of the song, and I don't want to because I heard it way too much. John Brentford says, I like Nicki Minaj, but I can't stand her music. See, I'm the opposite. I can hear Nicki Minaj, but I can't stand to listen to her talk. It's like she's a 12-year-old girl. Apparently, that's the thing now. So Nicki Minaj and who's the other one? Not Rihanna. Cardi B. Nicki Minaj and Cardi B are of this, look at me, I sound like a 12-year-old girl. Isn't that great? They both, to me, sound like 12-year-old girls. And I guess that's a thing. People like that. Yeah. Sorry, it was a little channeling Cardi B. Ted Trish says, your way of thinking is really a breath of fresh air for your age group. I am 76 years old, and I think you and I could get along without a doubt. Thanks for sharing with so many. Right on, Ted. Thank you. That means a lot to me. My father's about your age, a year younger. And I remember when I was in my late 20s, and I said to my dad, I said, you know, I find you and I are agreeing a lot more than we ever have before, and this worries me because, well, let's be frank, you're not getting any cooler. He thought that was funny, but it's true. It's true, right? So what does that say about me? But that's all right. I hope that we're all of the same intellectual level, regardless of age. I do hope. I don't tend to think of people in terms of age. I really don't. I tend to think of that we're on the same level communicating, and I think some people find that very respectful. I think they're honored that you spent someone half my age when I talk to them directly. They're like, wow, he's talking to me like I'm his equal. And other people are put off by it, like, you're old. Don't talk to me like you know me. So what are you gonna do? So if you have any technical questions for me, this will be the time to ask. What time is it? A little after 2 o'clock here in Phoenix. I am going to wrap it up a bit early today. I've got a bunch of stuff still left to do, some loose ends to wrap up. I've got stuff I've been meaning to pack up and ship. So I've got to get that done and get some envelopes addressed. I've got to go to the post office, get that mailed out, and just try and get that off of my to-do list, my honey-do list. I have to tell you though, that garage door opener, that really threw me. It kills me to pay somebody to do something I think I can do. I don't think I can install a garage door opener. I'm not quite sure how it all gets adjusted or how you secure it safely to the ceiling. And if I was gonna get a garage door opener, I'd get a belt-driven one that's really quiet, and they connect to Wi-Fi, and you can control it with your smartphone, and it looks amazing, but it's a completely different design. The benefit is the garage door is already balanced. You know, the torsion spring is on there. So, and the torsion spring, as I mentioned, it's a very, you don't want to mess with that. If that spring gets sprung, it might take you with it. So, you know, it's a high tension spring, but that's already done. But it's the actual mounting, and then you've got to adjust the garage door opener and configuring how long it opens and when to stop. So it's not trying to pull the garage door past its point of stop, or when it's sitting the garage door back down. That all has to be adjusted. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to know how to do that. And it cost me $43 for the logic board. They call it a logic board, but again, it's a whole piece. It's 2 cables, and you got to hook the sensors back up. And then I have to reprogram the remotes. We're back in business. So I couldn't be more thrilled with myself. It really wasn't very complicated. You know, I had no idea when I took the garage door cover off. And that's what I encourage you guys to do. I encourage you to do what you can do to be self-reliant. There's a sense, it's not just about saving money. It's about the sense of fulfillment that you did it yourself. Like, I just want to go open and close that garage door opener now because I fixed it and I like to watch it work. Before, it just worked like it was supposed to, you know, open, close. I didn't think about it. But now because I fixed it, every time it opens and closes, I smile a little bit that that's because of me. I remember the first time I changed the brakes in my car. That's a scary thing. Brakes are very important. And so after I put it all back together and I tested the car and stopped, I smiled like for a month every time I'd hit the brakes and the car would slow down. I was like, yep, it's because of me. That's how I know I did the job right. If I'm pushing the brakes and nothing's happening, not so much of a smile. My Dell PC and Intel is asking for a video card update, but Dell keeps blocking me. Is that Dell hardware? Yes, you'll need to get your driver from Dell if it's a laptop. Intel will tell me there's a new driver. I'm sorry, NVIDIA will tell me there's a new driver for my Dell laptop. And then NVIDIA says your hardware doesn't qualify. But then Dell says it's got a driver for that NVIDIA and it applies it and works just fine. So I may not get the latest driver from NVIDIA, but I always make sure I get the latest drivers from Dell. Carey, on Windows 10 version 1903, do you have any tweaks or tips on this? Same as always. My tips for Windows 10 do not change. The version is not that much different from previous versions of Windows 10, so it doesn't require anything different than what I've been doing since the original Windows 10. Thomas Beckinso says, cool shirt and a good conversation today. Thank you, Thomas. I do enjoy coming out here and talking with you guys. I think there's a certain amount of people on YouTube that have been too brainwashed into thinking YouTube is television. And the point of YouTube, in my opinion, is to be interactive with people, to communicate with you guys. And, you know, I said I would never do a live show because I was too embarrassed of what might happen when I make mistakes. When you edit videos, you can take all your mistakes out. If you misspeak, you can fix all that, and you're always perfect. You're always under the best light. But then you really don't get to know the person. You get to know a very contrived, controlled, edited version of what they want you to see. Who does this in real life, by the way? Now, certainly some people put on airs when they're in certain environments, fully acceptable. But I'd rather be open and honest with who I am and what's important to me and the values that I have, and share the information I have, because there was nobody in my life, well, that's not true. I had some friends that taught me cars and taught me computers. And I had some friends who caused a lot of harm thinking they were helping me. So I learned which friends to go to for help, you know. So I want the information that was provided to me to be provided to you guys in a way that I wish somebody would have given it to me, in a way that I would have understood it. So I don't make these videos specifically for you. I make them for people who relate to my perspective. And there's a lot more of you than I ever thought. I mean, I honestly thought I'd get a few hundred viewers. I never thought I'd hit 250,000. And it's sort of indicating to me that the logic that I use and the way that I think, it may not be so weird, because I was always told it was weird. And I don't think it's weird. It's different, and I always want to be different. I don't want to be like everybody else. If I was like everybody else, how could you tell me apart? So, and I don't want you to be like anybody else. I want you to take the information that I offer, and I want you to manipulate it and use it and interpret it in the way that suits you. It's not like I'm a chef who says, you have to eat this meal this way. These are the ingredients, and prepare it how you like. These are decisions that you can only make once you have experience. And I encourage you to get that experience. It's not enough to learn on the internet unless you're putting that learning into actual practice. It means nothing. So I want to encourage you to live. I want to encourage you to experience. This is a part of that, but this is not the whole thing. This is the inspiration, this is the idea, this is the catalyst. And it's up to you to take what information that you want to take and then put it into motion, put it to work and get your experience. And then if things go sideways or don't work out, I want you to come back and ask me a question about your experience that perhaps I need to consider when explaining it to others in the future. It's critical for me to have that information. So don't be embarrassed and say, I don't want to admit I didn't understand something. And I will do a better job of explaining it. Because and I want to be very clear on this, if people hide through embarrassment their lack of understanding, what you're not getting is that I failed as a communicator. It's not your fault, it's my fault. But if you don't make me aware of it, how am I going to get better? How am I going to communicate better? And so that's very, very important to me. And it's a two-way street. And it's not about being cruel, or it's not about being rude. It's about being honest. Saying, hey, I was doing this, and maybe I don't know, it didn't work. Do you know why? The only time it upsets me is when I over and over and over again explain, and then I get upset. I'm like, well, I already said that 15 times. That's the one downside, right? Because if you're somebody who's not paying attention, that's going to bother me. Because then I think, well, what's the point of conversing any longer? If you're not paying attention then, why are you going to pay attention now? They're simple things, but the devil's in the details, right? And there are certain things that I reiterate time and time and time and time again. And then when somebody says, how come this didn't work? And I go, well, what did I say? You know, and it's not there to insult anybody. It's there to kind of kick them in the butt and go, come on, man. I know you're better than this. I know you can do this. So think of me as sort of a tough love kind of guy, right? I want to shake you sometimes and go, come on. You can do this. You got it. I just often feel like I believe in some of you more than you believe in yourselves. Let's change that. Reverend John O'Toole has contributed $5. He says, it's good to see you. I've been in the hospital now in rehab. I hope everything's okay, John. It's good to hear from you. Carey, can you use old laptops for car diagnostics? Sure, I suppose you could. Or you could just get an OBD2 diagnostic reader and bypass the laptop, or they got these OBD2 code readers that connect Bluetooth to your phone. It's all junk. In my opinion, just get an OBD2 reader. If you're going to do your own car repair, get the right tool. But if it's some complicated software that, for whatever reason is available to you on the laptop, is too expensive in an OBD2 reader. Onboard diagnostics, OBD, is what's the OBD that I'm talking about. Built into all cars since like 1996 and newer. And it's a universal way of the onboard computer to communicate what's going on with the engine. Some are better than others. Some OBD2 readers are very expensive and complex, and others are very simple. And an old laptop is probably fine for that job. Piney Woods 01 says, cool shirt. I always enjoy your tips. I finished my new computer and it works like a dream. Thanks for all your discussion on building a computer. It was so easy. That's music to my ears. That makes my Friday. Thank you for that comment. And congratulations. I knew you could do it. Steven Cicero wants to know if it's true that if you have a Microsoft account, they will have your Windows product ID key. That's my understanding, and that's a benefit to you. Yes, you want them to have it because people lose things. Microsoft won't lose it. On the website where you bought the new Coke, is the new Coke really the new Coke, or is it just that the can is different? Guess you missed that part. No, it's the new Coke. And you know how I know? Because I poured it into this glass over here that's been watering down since we started. No. It's better. It's better now that the ice is melted and it's watered it down. It's still nasty. What were they thinking? How can they do a taste test and somebody says, I prefer the taste of this aspartame to real sugar. No, you don't. No, you don't. No. If you do not represent the majority of people. I'm sorry, you don't. Be happy about that. And I'm not saying it's got aspartame in it, but that's what it tastes like to me. It leaves a lingering film, an aftertaste. I have to get rid of it. It's just disgusting. I honestly thought I would like it. It's been 35 years, right? I mean, maybe it'll taste better to me now. I'm older and my tastes have been refined. No, it's still disgusting. Save your money. Unless you want that cool can. It is a piece of American history. The great mistake of 1985. Al Cooey says CCR is real music. If you want to see something impressive, on YouTube, there is a video of, is it Billy Gibbons or is it Dusty? One of the guys from ZZ Top. They look the same to me. He sort of, it's scripted, but it makes it look, and he's a bad actor. It makes it look like he just stops in to John Fogerty's practice session. And they start doing riffs to guess each other's songs. And I will tell you, I am not a fan of CCR, and I am not a fan of John Fogerty. I don't really care for the music. But I will say, John Fogerty's music sounds exactly the same when he plays it live. I don't like it when a band like the Cars, who I love their music, when they play it live, it sounds awful. There's no reflection of real talent, in my opinion, that it's all being fixed in the studio. I have a great respect when a band can sound as good live as they do on their recorded studio sessions. The Struts are very, very good. Listen to the Struts live and then listen to them in the studio. It's identical. John Fogerty, when he plays that guitar, when he plays those riffs, they are note for note, timing, everything exactly what you hear on the recorded studio albums. And I have great respect for that, even though I don't care for the music. It's not horrible music. It's not that I hate it, but it doesn't connect with me. But that being said, very talented guy. Great respect to John Fogerty. Is taking your name and address off of shipping labels necessary? I'd have to understand the context of that question. Carey, I copied my hard drive to a new solid state drive via a docking station, then installed it back in my laptop, but it doesn't show the true volume of the new SSD. I right-clicked to expand the volume, but it's grayed out. I've shown how to do that here on the YouTube channel, where the only reason that would happen is if you didn't, in my opinion, you did not use Acronis to do your clone, because Acronis will do that automatically. If what you did is you created an image and then you restored the image, then Acronis will do that. Now, if you use some other utility besides Acronis, I can't speak for it. But you can always download a free tool. If the Microsoft process isn't working for you, you can download EASUS, E-A-S-E-U-S. They make a partitioning tool free. Mini Partition Wizard. There's a bunch of free partitioning tools out there that you can install and resize your partition. Or you can reclone again using Acronis, because I have to assume you didn't. Or, like I said, you used an image and restored an image. But if you do, you go to Tools and go to Clone. Acronis does all that resizing for you. At this point, though, if all you have to do is resize the partition, you should be able to do that through Windows. But I would have to see it to see what you're doing wrong, because it's usually something I do in 4 seconds. And I've already talked more about it than the time it takes me to do it. So I can't imagine why you're seeing that. I have no idea. You haven't told me what you cloned to. You haven't told me what you cloned from. You haven't told me what the size of those drives are. You haven't told me how you've done it. You haven't told me what you tried to do to expand it. And without all those details, it would be impossible for me to go any further than that, other than to say, download the EASUS free partitioning tool and use that. And hopefully that'll get you there. And of course, if anybody in the chat wants to put a walkthrough on the Windows process or point to a video that demonstrates that, please feel free to do so. I'm not the only one with answers here. James Fletcher, Mr. Carey, I love that shirt. Getting a lot of nice comments from my shirt today. Right on. Guess I made a good choice when I bought it. Thanks, you guys. I've never really been known for my fashion sense. I know, it's a shock, right? I found there's a website called charlieharpershirts.com. I think that's what it's called. Let me see. I think that's what it's called. Charlie Harper, I'm typing with one finger here, shirts.com. Is that a thing? I think it's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. charlieharpershirts.com, which of course, you know I like that instantly. I haven't ordered from them. I'm assuming it's real. And I don't know what their prices are. This is not where I got this. This I got off Amazon. I think I got it off Amazon. And it was cheap. There you go. Just put it in the chat. Carey, does Microsoft require the out-of-box experience for new users of Windows 10 on pre-installed OEM systems, or is that a thing of the past? I believe that's a thing of the past. I wouldn't know because I really don't see brand new out-of-the-box systems, pre-manufactured systems, because I build systems. So why would I do that? But the last I saw one, and certainly anytime I install a new computer, I don't see it. So if it exists, it doesn't exist in my world. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I honestly don't know the answer to that. Reverend John O'Toole says, I lost 60 pounds in water weight in 2 weeks. That sounds pretty good, though. How do I do that? Is that a health concern, or is that a good thing? Because it sounds like a good thing. Bob Shoemaker says you can get Charlie Harper shirts from Amazon. I'm not surprised. Amazon is the everything store. Ted, what's the website you and a friend do? TechVets, www.tech-vets.com. Tech-vets.com. Oscar R has contributed $10. This is Happy Friday. Thank you, Oscar. Happy Friday to you. Robin Taha says, many thanks for your lessons. Thank you, Robin. Carey, any experience with a gigabyte motherboard boot loop issue? I've seen boot loops throughout my entire career, none specific to a specific manufacturer or board. They're usually driver related and operating system version related or BIOS related. Again, everyone is different. No one solution has worked twice. It's something I would have to see to resolve. Paul says he's lost over 10 kilograms just from stopping drinking soft drinks. So Penn and Teller, Penn Jillette is the big guy. He lost a lot of weight, and the way he says he did it is by cutting out sugary drinks. And it makes me think, maybe I could lose weight if I cut out the Coca-Cola. But on the other hand, I don't have a healthy diet. Maybe Penn Jillette has a good diet apart from the sugary drinks, and that's all he had to do. He doesn't really discuss that any further. I suppose I'd have to buy his book. But it occurred to me, like, maybe he just has a good, healthy diet, and all he had to do was cut out the sugary drink. Because I don't believe cutting out the soda would make much of a difference as far as losing weight goes in my case. Probably help my blood sugar level, but it wouldn't necessarily help weight loss. But I could be wrong. I do want to remind people, if you're joining the stream late, YouTube has a mode called DVR. That mode is always enabled on my live stream so that anytime you jump into a live stream, you can rewind the video right now all the way back to the beginning to see what you've missed. You do not have to wait for the video to become processed and made public later. You can do it right now at this very moment. You do not have to ask other people what you missed. It's up to you to drag that mouse back to see what you missed. Or you can wait when the video gets released publicly and watch it from the beginning if you don't want to miss what's happening live. I see a couple questions I've already answered, so I'm not going to readdress them. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's broadcast. Once again, I want to give you guys one more opportunity to ask any final technical questions you might have. We're going on about an hour and 45 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep it under 2 hours today. And just give you guys, again, final opportunity here. If you've asked something and I haven't seen it, that's possible. If you've asked something I've already answered, I'm not going to address those questions again. But it certainly doesn't hurt you to fire the question off now. And ideally, it'll be a new question that I haven't seen yet. And I'll do my best to provide an answer for you guys or point you on the path to where you can find the answer yourself, which is even better. Phil wants to know, I'm looking to build a gaming PC. Would I be better off basing my build around a 9900K, or should I wait to see what kind of benchmarks the new AMD CPUs provide as far as gaming? CPU plays very little role in most games. Once you're above an i5 or an AMD Ryzen 5, games really aren't going to improve. There's a few, but most games aren't really going to improve. Where your games are going to see an improvement is on the graphics card that you choose to add to your system, and that's where your focus should be. An i9 9900K is not a gaming CPU. That's a working CPU. That's for people who design games, not the people who play them. It will play them, just as a Ferrari can take you back and forth to the grocery store. It's not what it's designed to do. It's overkill, expensive. If that's the way you want to throw money at stuff, it doesn't make you a better gamer. You can buy the best camera equipment in the world. Doesn't make you a better photographer. The best pots and pans do not make you a better cook. If you're looking for the best gaming performance, you want to look to the specific game and the way that you want to play it. Do you want to play it in 4K or on multiple monitors? Do you want to play it with all the settings cranked up to max? If so, go to the forums of that game support group and find out what other people recommend. But don't think that that's going to apply universally across all games. On the other hand, if your idea is, I'm going to get the best of everything because I'm swimming in money, then absolutely go ahead and get that 9900K. go ahead and get that 2080 Ti, absolutely grab it. Go grab the Titan, slap it in there. If you want to drop $4,000 or $5,000 on a machine to play your games, that's your business. It's not the business I necessarily run, in the sense that I try and save people money and try and get them from spending money they don't need to spend. There's nothing to me more insulting than to watch somebody with a RGB custom liquid cooled $5,000 rig playing on multiple monitors with the most amazing keyboard and getting their ass handed to them by a 12-year-old using a hand-me-down computer. It doesn't make you a better gamer. But keep that into consideration when you choose your parts. What should I do if I want an NVMe SSD in a laptop? The Dell XPS series have NVMe SSDs in their laptops. I'm sure Alienware and there are others. I can't tell you the models. I don't know. The laptop models change frequently. My Dell laptop is an XPS 15. It's around $1,500, $1,600, and it has an NVMe drive in it, factory stock. So that much I know. Are you going to pour out the other new Coke? No. I'll use it for something. It seems like it would be wasteful. I'll find some purpose for it. It'll show up somehow. I'll come up with some idea. Don't worry. Carey, what causes a video to freeze and stutter in HD? It depends where you're sourcing the video. If you're sourcing the video, streaming it, like from Netflix or YouTube, it's your internet connection probably, or it's the resolution is too high for the bandwidth that you have, or the processor and memory you have are too low, or your computer's multitasking and it's doing too much. If you're playing video locally, it may be how it was encrypted or encoded. And I use a service video player called VLC. I talked about it earlier today. It's free and open source. And in fact, a new version of it just came out, 3.0.7.1. And I use VLC on all my desktops and on my Amazon Fire TV. And it has very smooth video playback. It's low on resources and it accommodates every codec that I'm aware of. And if VLC player won't play it, it's not a good file, basically. If it requires some codec that VLC player doesn't support, that's a virus as far as I'm concerned. And I delete it and I find another source for that file. Carey, what's your favorite form of thermal paste? All thermal pastes are basically the same with regards to performance. So there's no favorite. You just, when I buy thermal compound, I'm generally buying the Noctua NH1 because for $8 I get a tube about that big. That's all. It's not because it's Noctua. Before that I was buying Arctic Silver 5 because again I could get 4 tubes for like $8. It was very inexpensive. They all work essentially the same. So this idea that you need to spend an exorbitant amount of money and apply the thermal paste in a special meaning or special manner really doesn't make that much of a difference. And if you're that curious about it, I would encourage you to try different thermal compounds and apply them in different methods and do your own thermal testing. And you've got to allow a 3-degree variance because your ambient room temperature will change naturally by plus or minus 3 degrees as you're testing. And I think you'll find no bigger than a 3-degree difference. And when you conclude that the ambient temperature of the room is changing, even though you may not feel it, that there is actually no difference between thermal compounds. The difference is so negligible as to be completely irrelevant with regards, if you're serious about cooling your computer, it's pointless. You need to just put a nice fresh coating of thermal compound on a clean, use rubbing alcohol, get the surface decontaminated, make sure it's clear on both sides of the heatsink. And when I say both sides, I mean the surface of the heatsink and the surface of the CPU heat spreader. Make sure those are clean as you can get them with with rubbing alcohol or denatured alcohol. apply a very thin layer. Finger paint is what I like to do, but you can apply it however you want to apply your thermal compound, using any thermal compound you want, just on the heat spreader of the CPU. Do not put it onto the heatsink because you won't know where to put it. And when you mate those two surfaces together and lock it down, I think you'll find the end results are exactly the same, regardless of the method and regardless of the type. And if you don't believe that, there's no video in the world that will educate you more than doing it yourself. And then you will have an understanding far, far richer and deeper than anything you'll ever read or see on the internet. Pat Johnston's contributed $5. Thank you, Pat. Diane says, I want to be a car-ey-lyst. Right on, Diane. And so you shall. Yeah, car-ey-lyst is just an attitude. You just change your attitude. That's how easy it is. But it's remarkably, profoundly difficult for many people to do something that simple. But God bless them for trying, and never give up, and keep trying until you figure it out. It takes practice. In fact, I'm still working on it. And I got a ways to go. Matt wants to know, is it possible for a motherboard that went bad to take out an SSD along with it? Of course. Everything's connected, right? So if you have cancer over here, can it move over down there? Of course it can. It's all connected together. If things are connected together, when things go sideways, then it takes it right along with it, potentially, depending on what the problem is specifically. If there's an electrical surge and it hits your motherboard, everything is plugged into your motherboard. Your solid state drive is plugged into it, your RAM is plugged into it, your CPU is plugged into it, a mechanical hard drive is plugged into it, maybe an optical drive, video card, network card, sound card, all potentially are on that same pathway. And depending on the path the electricity takes and the sensitivity of the item will determine whether or not it survives. I once had a computer come into the shop in the 1990s where we had a big electrical storm here in Phoenix, lots of lightning in the sky and rain. And the system had a physical burn mark. You could visually see inside of it. This is back in 486 days. And I said, you know, this is why you should unplug the computer. The guy said it was unplugged. It was unplugged. And I said, well, the modem is dead. We had dial-up modems back then. And the modem had a big scorch mark on it. And I said, it looks like you didn't unplug the modem. He goes, you have to unplug the phone too? I go, well, there's voltage running through the phone. There's 90 volts running through a standard landline. Yeah, you don't just unplug power. 90 volts are on a phone line. So if you left the phone line plugged in and the phone line, let's say the telephone pole outside got hit or it was hit somewhere down the line, where's it going to go? So disconnect all cables. Any cables going outside, your phone cables. Nobody really has landlines anymore, so this is kind of an outdated example, but that really happened. That's a true story. And what it did is it appears, like, I don't know, I can only tell you that the machine didn't boot. There was a scorch mark on the modem. As I recall, the motherboard was gone and something else was gone. I can't remember if it was the hard drive, but all those components had to be replaced, and then we were back up and running and everything was fine. And it's not likely to ever happen again. It's a freak thing that happens. And it happened. Why does Windows Defender keep turning off in Windows 10 1903 if you have Malwarebytes installed? Malwarebytes has improved now to also cover viruses, and you no longer need to have Windows Defender with Malwarebytes. If you're running the latest version of Malwarebytes, you do not need Windows Defender running at the same time. So it's nothing to worry about. Just make sure you're running the paid version of Malwarebytes, and you don't need anything else. It's doing you a favor. More antivirus doesn't necessarily protect you more. It can slow the machine down and it can create conflicts, but having bigger bumpers on your car doesn't necessarily reduce the chances of an accident. Phil says, I had a power surge once come through a coaxial line, took out my cable box, traveled down the HDMI cable, and took out my television. Yes, 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 that can very much happen. In Phoenix, we call it monsoon season, and it's where we get our thunderstorms and electrical storms, and we usually get that in the from August until around September. August and September, maybe even July. Is hyper-threading really important in CPUs? That depends on how you use your computer. For some people, it can increase productivity by 100%, and for other people, they don't notice a difference. But I've never had somebody say to me, my computer's running too fast, can you please slow it down? So in general, hyper-threading can only improve the computer. There's no downside to it, other than potential security risks, but that's always going to be an issue no matter what. Paul says, Carey, I miss your cooking videos. I've got some coming soon, Paul. I promise you, I have some cooking videos coming soon. How much price drop do you anticipate coming to the Zen 1 and Zen 2 chips when the Zen 3 Ryzens come out in the near future? No idea. No idea. The marketplace, it's like asking me what stock should I buy right now? The one that's cheap, that's going to go up, cheap in comparison. Bitcoin is down. Is this a good time to buy Bitcoin? Might be the best time. But what if it keeps going down? Well, then it's a bad time to buy. I don't know. What's gas prices going to be next week? I don't know. I have had my crystal ball in for service, and it has never worked right. Matt's Rickardson's with start menu, slow access, about 10 seconds. Don't know, but generally speaking, I see that mostly with mechanical drives. People that have solid state drives don't usually have that problem. I also see that in machines that are lacking a minimum amount of RAM. Ideally, you have 8 gigs of RAM as a minimum. Anything less than that and a solid state drive can result in slowness like you described, though you've told me nothing about your machine. Is using Windows Defender good enough? No. No. Nothing free that protects your security is good enough. Free security is about as secure as no security. And if you're good with leaving your identity and everything you own up to something for free, which has no accountability, there's nobody you can call for support or help, you live in a different world than I do. My stuff is worth more than free. I always liked the bumper sticker I saw in a car in New York. It was a parked car, and it said, "There's nothing in this car worth your life." Kind of like that. No matter what the antivirus costs, it's a bargain. If you're buying MC-Soft or Malwarebytes for 30, 40 bucks a year, it's a bargain. Because when you see and when you experience the damages that get caused from using a free piece of security software or no security software with no support, 40 bucks is going to seem real cheap then. You could probably get it cheaper than that too, but just using that as an example. Matt says, I have an SSD and 32 gigs of RAM. Well, in that case, I think it's time for you to do a fresh install of your operating system. So a nice clean install of Windows 10 and the problem should go away. Fred says, Carey, I tried your pizza recipe and it was a hit in my house. Hey, it's pizza. Come on. I'm going to make another pizza and I'm going to do it a little differently in an upcoming video. And I love it even better than what I showed you. We'll see if you agree. I hope to do that next week, but it depends when my floors. Remember, when the floors get installed, I can't be in here. The workers will be in here for a few days. The Uncle Carey Windows 10 Optimizer. Where's the link? It is in the video notes. If you look at the every video I post, has a lot of notes below it. And in those notes, there are links to things I discuss and show, whether it's that turning table or my electric screwdriver or the Windows 10 Optimizer. Please look at the video notes and all the links are there for you. I also have links to products that point to Amazon. If you use any of those links to take you to Amazon, I make a small commission and it supports the channel for anything you purchase. It doesn't have to be the thing the link took you to. So if the link took you to Amazon for a screwdriver, but while you're at Amazon, you're like, I don't want that screwdriver, but I do need whatever, and you type it in Amazon search, the price is still the same. You're not paying any more for it. But because it was my link that took you to Amazon that led you to make a purchase, I will make a very small commission from your purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. Those things do add up. I shop from Amazon a lot. I wish I could make a commission off myself. Rick says, I still have to get a pizza stone recommended by Carey. Oh yeah, if you don't have a pizza stone, you're not making pizza. You're making bread. And David Ice has put a link in for the Windows Optimizer as well. So thank you for doing that, David. But I do want to remind you, there's a lot of links that you may not even consider asking about that you won't know about unless you click on them to show more below the video to see that text. All right, so I've gone on for 20 minutes instead of 15, so I went over. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks again for all the contributions. Let me give a shout out for everybody here who has contributed today. Pat Johnston, William Lundy, who contributed $2 New Zealand and said, here's a Coke on me from New Zealand. Thank you, William. Winston Englu contributed $2 Canadian. Oscar R. Reverend John O'Toole, hope you're feeling better, Johnny. Ivan Romero, thank you so much for your contribution. Michael Walpole, Irving T. John Jack Wilson, Chester Hughes, Stephen Anderson, Donnie Seeger, Alan Maybrier, MC Splash, and of course kicking us off with the first contribution today, and quite often, Tony Wallow. Thanks you guys for supporting the channel, for being a part of this community. For all my friends in blue, thank you for keeping it civil in the chat. For those of you who haven't been turned blue yet, it is my goal, it is my wish that every one of you becomes blue. And it happens in time. It is something where I start to recognize your name in the chat. I recognize that you're a friendly and supportive person, and that leads you to becoming blue, whether you like it or not. I did have one person ask me to not make them blue because they felt it was too much responsibility. And so I removed their blue. But it is a little disappointing because probably the people that are worried about that responsibility are the ones who most deserve it. But all things in time. Thanks you guys for joining. I do intend to be back on Monday. However, depends on what this construction situation is. If there's no construction, which I don't think there will be, I do expect to be back live. I do have some reviews to get done, and we'll see what other repairs might come in between now and then. And so from myself and my shirt, thanks you guys for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.